Medical professionals of Reddit, what's the funniest thing a patient has said under anesthesia? Not anesthesia but delirium. Introduced the oncoming nurse to the patient. The patient gestured grandly around the room and said, "Nurse's name. Meet all my friends." Quote, to an empty room. My dad, Italian, was waking up from anesthesia and kept looking at his Asian nurse and saying he was so glad his daughter was with him, and that he loved his daughter. The nurses were confused, so they went out into the waiting to check for his daughter. I was the only one in the waiting area, and when they saw me and started hysterically laughing. I am Korean by birth, but was adopted by my lovely Italian family. That I look like a guy who worked for Bon Jovi. I always start to compliment everyone I see after waking up from anesthesia. It's super important to me to compliment them, it seems. You nurses are doing such a good job. I hope you know that. Such a great job. Quote, well, you're all so beautiful. Why is everyone so beautiful? Quote, thank you for taking care of me. That's really nice of you. Quote, I love your eyes. They look kind and pretty. Quote, I am not fully there yet, but I still always react the same. I am scared and worried that they don't know how great they are. I have no filter when I wake up. Normally I am too shy to say everything I think about others. And a few minutes later I start to throw up. Every single time. I was the patient, but right before Christmas a couple of years ago I had my gallbladder removed. In the recovery room as I was waking up I became obsessed with singing the 12 Days of Christmas song. I kept asking the nurses what order the verses were in. As they were wheeling me out of the room I heard a nurse belt out 5 golden rings, which was followed by everyone's laughter. Not medic but patient. I had appendix surgery after a preventive 2-day fasting. Water was okay, and anesthesia hit me pretty hard. When I was told I had to use one of those plastic urinals or whatever because they said the abdominal effort could make me faint, I just said, I ain't gonna poop on a plastic tupper. If I pass out in the toilet like a hero, then let it be. I'm preparing to salsa dance. After being put under to have a wisdom tooth extracted, I told everyone for an hour that my balls were tingling. I mean, they were, and folks just needed to know because it was hilarious. At least, to me, it was so funny. We had to stop by the grocery store on the way home and I think a few dozen people there heard about it. My poor wife. Young girl after a root canal said, where are my dentures? Wife got an epidural right before childbirth and said some funny things. Once the baby's head was in the birth canal, the nurses asked if she wanted to touch her baby, and she said that nobody is allowed to have sex with her daughter. Obligatory, not a doctor, but I was the patient. I had to get my wisdom teeth removed at the hospital because they were, for lack of a better term, fucked. When I woke up, the nurse was going through the routine to make sure I was not brain dead. She asks me my name by saying, who are you? I respond with, I'm a lesbian. My parents were in the room. They didn't know at the time. That was how I came out. This woman undergoing C-section under spinal anesthesia plus ketamine said, show my baby first to my brother-in-law. He deserves to see her first. I sometimes wonder what happened to her marriage after that. Not a medical professional, but my mom was coming out from under anesthesia after a procedure a few years ago and I was trying to help her. She puckered her lips, so I picked up her water cup and asked if she wanted some. She turned her face toward me and said, do I look like an airplane? Quote, the nurses and I completely lost it. I still tease her about it sometimes. I was the patient. After coming out of surgery for a hernia at the age of about 15 to 16, my father helped me to the bathroom in the hospital. I was pretty fucked up still and said, "Boy, Dad, I was just so worried I was going to get an erection during the procedure." He laughed and made a slicing motion with his hand, implying the doctor would have cut my dick off, and I burst into tears and threw up on myself. A girl I worked with told the story of how she got grounded from age 15 to 18 because of anesthesia. She was having a colonoscopy, and as she was a minor, her mother was in the room with her. After she was sedated, and as the technician started to insert the scope, she mumbled, "No, not again. Boyfriend's name. It hurt last time." Her mother was not amused. Am I in hell? The very first time I was in 3rd grade and was relatively scared. What kept me brave was the promise of Burger King breakfast afterwards. It was an early morning procedure that required fasting, and I rarely got fast food. They ended up running behind that day, so it was up in the air if I would wake up and get out in time to get my breakfast, which ended at 10. The first words out of my mouth were, "What time is it?" When my mom informed me it was already about 9:30, I tried to get out of bed and nearly ripped out my IV in the process. When she tried to tell me that we would be late and I could get it another day, I promptly burst into tears. Oh God, I woke up sobbing. I was convinced that I was married to Cedric Diggory and he had just been killed by Voldemort. I'm cringing so hard just thinking about it. I was inconsolable. IANAD. But when my sister got her wisdom teeth out, she screamed in the car until we stopped and let her out near our house, and she sprinted back to the house because she wanted to race the car. I need to go find that video. Dislocated my shoulder in a way that my arm ended up stuck up over my head. Apparently, while all hopped up on Demerol, I was laughing hysterically while the doctor was standing on the table, gurney wrestling with my arm to get it back into the socket. I don't remember a thing.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.